Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. We are now finally here with the first of hopefully many One Piece deck profiles in comparison to what I used to do with Yu-Gi-Oh, where it was just one deck every however many times with Earth Machine. As much as I love the deck, it did get a bit stale towards the end. I would like to show you probably one of my favourite decks, if not my favourite deck of all time, OP06's Blue-Purple Vinsmoke Reiju. And well, this is a combo style deck. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh, like I very much do still, as much as some people think I'm a crackhead for it, this deck is very similar. And well, it is a combo deck going from smaller monsters to bigger ones and just summoning a shit ton of them all at once. I'm going to go through the deck profile and show you what the deck does on a basic turn, and hell, even show you one of the more infamous combos in the deck. So let's get right into it. So, some context about the deck. This deck is mainly revolving around the Germa family and, well, the Germa kingdom itself. Using the Germa siblings, Reiju, Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, who is not played, and Sanji, as well as their father Judge, to do some very explosive plays by obviously drawing cards and just doing a whole bunch of shit. Well, this deck is also not pure. There are some cards that help the deck run very, very well, and some cards that are kind of required in the deck for the current meta in OP09. I will go into this deck into two parts. The, well, Vinsmoke portion of the deck, as well as the, what is colloquially called the non-engine, but the honorary Germa cards, as well as some other cards that I play in the deck. So, we will start off with, obviously, as you have seen, 4 copies of two cost Vinsmoke Reiju. All of the Germa siblings have the same sort of thing. They have a smaller version and they have a bigger raid suit version. Reiju has this 2 cost version, Niji has the 3 cost version, and Ichiji has a 4 cost version. All of the siblings have the same effect that you can activate main once per turn. You can return 1 Don back to the deck, then trash this character. If your leader is Germa 66, you can play up to 1 Vinsmoke Reiju, Vinsmoke Ichiji, or Vinsmoke Niji, with a cost of 4, 7, and 5 respectively from your trash. So you have to play off the one that's specifically named on the card. So in this instance, we would play the 4 copies of super rare Vinsmoke Reiju. This card is always really fun to do in combination with leader ability as well. On play, if the number of Don on your field is equal or less than your opponent's and you have 5 or less cards in hand, you may draw 2 cards. In conjunction with leader ability, that will always draw you at least 1 card. When a Don is returned back to the deck, you are always going to be drawing at least 2 cards a turn. And if you're able to set this up, you're able to draw 3 cards in 1 turn. The reason this card specifically is very good in this deck, well, at least right now, is that it acts in a similar way to how Zorajuro kind of acts in Purple Leafy. It gives you advantage and it gives you a decent sized body for turn 1. So then we shall move on to what is undoubtedly the best card in this deck, in my opinion, or the best set of 2 cards, and that is Vinsmoke Ichiji. Like Reiju, he can tag out into his bigger version, which is obviously the man, the myth, the legend, 7 cost Rush Ichiji. On play, if the number of Don on your field is equal or less than your opponent's, you can give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power for the turn, and then it gains a rush. So being able to play this on your turn too, regardless if you go first or if you go second, especially with some specific cards in this deck, you're always going to be able to draw a card off of leader ability, as well as get a 7k swing into something that might not be expecting it. So I always love trying to get this card into rotation as quickly as possible, in a very similar vein to how you want to try and get Reiju into rotation, as you want to draw a shit ton of cards and get all you need very, very fast. So we are on to already the last 4 of the Vinsmoke character side, and that's oddly enough Vinsmoke Sora. Despite her not being very prevalent into the show's story other than Sanji's backstory, she is the colloquially, well, named 2k of the deck. She's the one that's searchable. You can also play her, as it does come up every now and again as on play. You can trash 1 card from your hand. If the Don on your field is less than or equal to your opponent's, you can add up to 1 Vinsmoke family type character card with 4,000 power or less. So a lot of the time you're adding back the smaller rates, or the smaller Vinsmoke siblings, to add them back into your hand to do a bigger play. Now we're on to the, not the less forgotten ones, but the siblings that don't quite matter as much at the moment. We have 2 copies of Niji. Niji has the same effects as, well, Reiju and as HG, as that he can tag out into his bigger version, which is this 5-cost Niji. That if the number of Don on your field is less than or equal to your opponent's, you can either do one of 2 effects. You can either character one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, which is really, really good to get rid of like a Lafitte searcher if Blackbeard hasn't negated your on-play effects, get rid of a Bonnie searcher for Bonnie, and just get rid of all those small little like characters that otherwise you just, well, can't get rid of because they're either blockers or they're active for whatever reason. So now we have probably one of the most polarizing cards in this deck, and that is 2 copies of Vinsmoke Judge. Judge as a card is either your best friend or your worst nightmare, because on play you can Dom -1, trash 2 cards from your hand, and then you can play up to 4 German 66 type character cards with different names and 4,000 power or less straight from your trash. This card is amazing. It is essentially a soul charge for 4, and it's normally a big game ending push if you want to try and get to it. It also has the other effect that you can activate main once per turn and do an additional Don -1 to rest one of your opponent's Don. This effect is really good specifically into decks like Purple Luffy, Black Purple Luffy, Green Purple Luffy, Robin, and most Purple Straw Hat decks, as they always leave 1 Don open for Giant. Bonnie, as well, she leave a Don open for leader ability, as well as most red players that are playing, well, Radical Beam. A lot of the time, you only resolve this card once. So realistically, I would only play 1 card or 1 copy of this card, but I unfortunately don't have another copy of the next card I'm going to show you, and that is 1 copy of the promo Sanji. This should be, you should have, or I at least should have another copy of this card. I just don't have one, and I don't know where the fuck anyone else has got one, and, well, they don't, and it's really annoying me. So now we're on to the events of the deck, and, well, more specifically, 1 stage and 1 event. So you have probably another one of the best cards in this deck, and that is Germa Kingdom. For 1 Don, you can easily set up your graveyard. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one card with Germa in its type, reveal it, then place it to the bottom of the deck in any order. You can add itself, and there are some instances where you do want to add itself, but a lot of the time you're trying to add your Germa siblings, or maybe even a Black Bug if you choose to play it. I am not playing it, and I've not really missed it. And then obviously we have 1 copy of Germa 66, well, the event that allows you to look at the top 5 cards, add any character with Germa included in its type, reveal it, place the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. I would also realistically cut this card. I don't really see myself playing more of it until OP09 comes out, where we have to go full high roll ETG. So that is the Germa portion of the deck. Let us move on to the non-Germa portion. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, for the non-Germa portion of the deck, we are also on a Foxy Pirates package. From the release of OP07, we have been using this package to be able to high roll the fuck out of our opponents. Pause on play, you can Dom -1, reveal, look at the top 5 cards of the deck, add any Foxy Pirates card, including herself, from it to your hand, place the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order, then you may play any purple character with 4,000 power or less. And, ladies and gentlemen, all of the small Reiju characters, all of the small Vinsmoke siblings, are all 4,000 power or less. And, well, we also obviously also have to play some level of ramp along in this, well, searchable ramp anyway, and that is 4 copies of Blocker Chopper. On play, if the number of Don on your field is less than or equal to your opponent's, you may add up to 1 Don from the Don deck as rested. This card is really, really good, and is actually really solid, considering the fact that even in OP10, where we do kind of drop Porsche, but especially in 11, where we still definitely drop it, it's really good for RAM. And then we have another searchable 2K, being 2 copies of Gina. She's literally just here for the 2K. You could easily cut her for something a little bit better. And then the final character of the deck, and that is 4 copies of Black Maria. This card is, oh, what can I say about this card? I absolutely adore this card so much. This card does figure out what one of Reiju's biggest problems, and that is ramp. This deck can either go 2- or doesn't have enough characters to ramp, so therefore you're just kind of not doing anything with it. This, to a degree, kind of solves the problem. This allows you to obviously get the Don back that you've minused. You can also use it for a 2k, and well, if you happen to play 2 Judge like I am, there is a combo line where you can Judge effect and then do all the siblings. Then if you have a second Judge in hand, you can play Black Maria on the turn if you happen to have anything left. You can then, on the following turn, play Judge and then just do it all again. It is a lot of fun. And that is all for the characters of this deck, ladies and gentlemen. We are now on to the final 4 cards that are events that are a little specific to the current meta. And we are on to Gamma Knife, as well as, I might as well show them now, 2 copies of Gum Gum Red Rock. Both of these cards are very much useful for big fuck characters. Shanks is very infamous for having just big fucks that rush at you very, very quickly. Gamma Knife can also trigger your leader ability as it Don -1s, and while it also allows you to deal with very big bastards like, well, 10 cost Shanks, Rayleigh, Blackbeard, and, well, try and put your opponent in a more awkward position. Red Rock is in a very same vein as it, well, if you can't push through it, if you can't push through the problem, you might as well just get rid of it. And, well, both of these do actually have trigger effects that are kind of simple as such. Obviously, Gamma Knife can set 1 Don as active from the deck on trigger. Red Rock can place a character with a cost of 4 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck on trigger. It is definitely one of those things where these kind of 4 spots, and maybe a couple of other spots in the deck, are very much flex spots. You can deal with them how you see fit, especially if your meta is very much different than mine. So, let me show you what the deck can regularly do. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I will do is I will quickly show you how all of the Vinsmoke siblings work using, obviously, Reiju, as you can see here, using, obviously, Reiju, as well as her bigger counterpart. So, obviously, Reiju, the smaller one, costs 2 Don to use. So, what we will do, we will tap the 2 Don we have open, and, well, we will play it using what it needs to be played. So, what we will do is we will activate its main ability. We will put 1 Don from the field back to the deck. You can be attached to characters, it just can't be attached to herself. We will then trash her, and then now what we can do is we have 1 Reiju in hand and 1 of the Reijus in grave. We could literally do either of them. A lot of the time you want your Reijus in grave, which means you would have to find a way to discard it, but in a lot of instances it's not bad playing them from hand. So now on play we will have 2 abilities to trigger. We will have the full cost Reiju's ability to trigger, that if we have obviously 5 or less cards in hand, of which we do in this very creative instance, and our opponent, and we have less Don than our opponent, which we will definitely likely, we will obviously draw 2 cards. Now obviously, because the Don was returned back to the deck, we will draw another card. That is kind of the simplest way on how to put it. Niji, Ichiji, as well as Yonji, even though he's not played in the deck, they all do the same thing. They all have their different abilities. So now, let me show you how Judge works. So, I will explain to you guys how Judge works. So obviously now we have our 8 Don, we have our Judge, obviously being able to be used in our hand, and we also have 2 random cards to discard. The cards in this instance, as we have our graveyard already set up, do not matter. So, we will then tap all 8 of the Don that we have available open to us, and we will play, obviously, the Judge from our hand. Then, on play, we can put 1 Don back to the deck, and we can discard these 2 blank cards to summon out all 3 of the siblings we happen to have in our graveyard. Realistically, you can also do this with Yonji, as I have previously said. So, in this instance, we have, obviously, a draw off of leader ability for whatever it may be. The Sora is just kind of here. We can then activate all of these abilities if we happen to have the Don open for them. If you've already activated them, you can activate them again, as they are not once per turns. And even if they said once per turn on them, they are once per copy. So obviously Reiju, we'll put 1 back, we'll trash her, play the bigger one, draw 2 cards. Obviously, we draw another Judge, could be some funny. Then we have obviously Niji, which can also bring himself back, and then pop a 2 cost or less, or bounce a 4 cost. Then finally we have our boy Ichiji, which can sack himself and then play himself, and then obviously give our opponent -2k, and it will likely gain Rush. So That is what Judge does for the deck, and you're likely to only resolve that maybe once, maybe twice at a push. Now let me show you what Porsche can do for the deck and the funny, infamous combo. So, let me show you the Porsche into Ichiji combo. Well, we obviously need 3 cards. We need a Porsche, an Ichiji, and by technicality, we need a bigger Ichiji from hand or from grave. It doesn't matter where. We will then tap out all 3 of the Don we have at our disposal to play Porsche. Porsche on play will activate her effect. We will Don -1. We will look at the top 5 cards of the deck for a Foxy Pirate. Oh look, we happen to hit 2. We will take the Chopper, as it's something I'm more likely to take. We will put the rest to the bottom of the deck, and now, because we have resolved that part of the effect, we can play this Ichiji for completely free. We will then obviously get a draw off of leader ability, because we have put a Don back to the deck. We can then activate Ichiji's ability, putting 1 Don back, trashing himself, and then playing the 7 cost from hand or from grave. This play is always incredibly strong because it always establishes you 2 bodies, regardless of what Vinsmoke character you use, because you can do this with all of them. And, well, it obviously gets you draw off of leader ability. A lot of the time you're going +2, as well, the cards will replace themselves. And just in general, you have 2 swings, a 5k and a 7k swing at leader, or maybe even at a bigger character that's causing you some problems. So, that's all from me, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to see more One Piece deck profiles and more One Piece content in general, let me know down below about what decks I should try, what decks I should show off. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, have a good one, take care, and happy dueling.